In the last video, we created a SharePoint list to catalog all of the connectors. In this video, we will set up another SharePoint list to document all of the flows with the associated connectors. In the next video, we will establish a SharePoint list with Power Apps with their identified connectors. Like I said in the last video, if you already have the Center of Excellence installed, you do not need this solution. It will update the list of used connectors as the flow or Power Apps changes. Whereas this solution is a one-time inventory. Before we run the create SPO list flow, we want to ensure that our environment variable get data connector site is selected so the flow knows which site collection to create the list for. After you have selected a SharePoint site, go ahead and open the get data connector create SPO list flow. If you wish to rename the flow list, you can do so in the list name flow compose action. I recommend choosing a name without spaces for a cleaner internal list name. And when you're ready, we are going to test it. After you have created the list successfully, then add a lookup column called connectors. Select the list that you have created to store the data connectors and then select allow multi-value checkbox and then click save. Then go back to the solution to change the get data connector flow list environment variable to your newly created list. Now that you have created a SharePoint list to store the flows, it is time to fetch all of the workflows with their associated connectors. Before you begin, ensure that you have the Power Platform admin role and is also a system administrator to the environments you want to fetch the Power Automate flows from. And then open the Get Data Connector initial create flow items workflow. We will initialize two variables, flows and fail flows. And then we would have a constant from parse JSON action. Then we have the connector lookup column template, which is ID number, semicolon, hashtag, and then the title of the lookup value. Then we have the site URL, flow list ID, data connector ID, and all of this here. In the get flows scope, we are going to fetch all of the environments and then use the select action to select the environment ID, name, type, the status, and then filter out the disabled environments. And then for each environment, we are going to list out all the workflows as an admin, and then we are going to grab the data that we really need for the SharePoint list, such as the flow ID, the title, the state, environment ID, creator object ID, created date, last modified date, environment name. Then right below that, I have a compose action, grabbing the select action from flows, and then we would flatten it out from a nested array to a flat array. The next action, we are going to get all the connector from the connector list, grabbing the connector ID, tier, and title, and then a select action of the connector IDs. In the next scope, we are going to get the connectors from each flow. So for every flow, we are going to get the flow and the flow definition. Right below it, I have append to array in case it fails. So in the configure run after action is when get flow as admin action fails or has timed out. This action is really important just in case we're going to fetch 400 workflows. Sometimes during the fetching process, a workflow actually get deleted. We will have to start over again. So this just helps alleviate any errors and will continue running in the apply to each. And in the apply to each action, I also have turned on concurrency control set to 20. And right below it, we have a select action where the configure run after if the previous action was skipped. And this is selecting type of actions that was in that flow. And the next select action is selecting the trigger that it has. So the next action of HTTP compose is going to check if it has a HTTP type in there. If there there is, then write out HTTP here. And then the next action is checking if there's a type called HTTP webhook. If it is, then write it on this compose action. And the following action is if the select triggers contains HTTP characters, then write HTTP request on this compose action. And then if there is a connection reference, then use a parse JSON to parse out the connection reference, and then select all of the connector display names using the connector ID. And then we are going to do a union to get rid of any duplicate connector IDs, and then join it together with a comma. The next action is a compose action to concatenate the join connector string action, the HTTP webhook, add HTTP, and add HTTP request outputs. And then right beneath it is to create an array from the previous action using the split function, splitting on the comma, and then do a union of the previous action to give any duplicate values. And then we are going to filter out from the connector list using use connectors IDs. And then we are going to replace the constant connector lookup template ID with an actual SharePoint ID. And the title is going to be the SharePoint connector title. Then we are going to append to var flows by adding a property called connectors. If the previous select action is empty, then do two single quotes. Else, we are going to join the previous select action with a semicolon and hashtag. Right below it, it is just a compose action to display the flows variables. In the create item scope, we have a template of what we are going to put in our post call to create all of the SharePoint items. So we have change set up here, and then we're posting to the site URL using the flow list ID, adding these items. These are the headers. And then we have the form value to add the title, flow ID, the state, environment ID, environment name, creator object ID, created date, and last modified date. And then at the bottom, we have the connectors. And then the next thing we're going to do is using the flows variable, and then replace all the placeholders. And the following compose action is chunking it out by 100 items. So instead of having 400 items, it would divide those arrays into 100 items at a time. And if for every chunk of 100 items, we are going to do a post create to SharePoint. And then down here in the body, we are just joining the items by nothing. So then it would all get put together as a string. In just a few steps, you can create a SharePoint list with all the flows with their associated connectors. And there you have it. I hope this video is helpful. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell icon to follow for more updates.